Hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on our beautiful new earth. Welcome to Akashic Enlightenment Level 1, 2025. We have made it. So, yes, we are kicking off the new year and our Pluto and Aquarius era with learning Akashic Enlightenment. So, those of you who are doing this live or in the replay, anytime you do this, it will be different because you are in a new field of energy, especially now, which is why I am teaching all of these now, because we are in a lot of new energy since I last taught this. So, welcome. We will be going over a lot of material today. Okay, the first class is basically the full introduction of Akashic Enlightenment, what it is, and some preparatory meditations. And then we will go in and you will practice answering questions and receiving the information. Okay, and through this practice, you will be building your connection through Akashic Enlightenment, working on building your frequency to hold the Akashic Enlightenment frequency, which is your full ascended self. So you may get a little tired if you are doing this for the first time because you're learning to hold the frequencies. Also, you may get tired even if you've done this for a while because you are learning to hold it in a new frequency. Okay, so we'll just see how it goes. And yeah, we'll be starting with our intro class today. We will be doing this for 5 weeks. There's 5 classes to level 1. And, I think we have a small enough group live that we can do some sharing of the answers that you get from the questions. When we have a larger group live, sometimes it's tricky to get to everybody's sharing. So those who do the video replay will benefit just through hearing what you share. And you're not going to be required to share, but whatever you do share, it just helps others understand generally the information and the energy or the experience that you're receiving through connecting to your own Akashic Enlightenment. All right, so all of the handouts are online, so you can have those on screen. I'm going to pull it up here. Some people like to print it out and write all over it. Other people like to have a journal and take notes in it and answer all the questions that way. So, however you want to do it. I will say though, if this is your first time, that you probably want to start with using a pen and paper and not typing things because the thinking to type is it can interfere with what you're receiving. The only time I've noticed it doesn't really do that if you're really part of the youngest generation where you probably don't even know how to handwrite because you're so used to typing. It's just completely natural and you don't think about it at all. Okay, those are the only ones I've seen that it doesn't interrupt things. That, or you've gotten so accustomed to the energy over time, then it's okay to move to typing the answers that you receive. Okay, all right. So let me go ahead and put our handout up here. Let's see, where do I want to get this from? Yeah, we'll go on here. Oh, energy shifting. My ears popping. Okay. Just trying to find the files here, and I'm logged into the wrong Dropbox. So just give me a minute here. Hold on, my I'm being asked to do a verification code. All right, here we go. Okay. Enlightenment. All right. Let me get the screen all set up here. Okay. All right, so here we go. Let me see, make that. There we go. All right, so Akashic Enlightenment level 1. And this is the handout that is also online if you want to print it. So accessing your Akashic records and Book of Truth for self-enlightenment and ascension. So I'm going to be reading a lot of the material. It is channeled, and you may feel the crown of the head or the third eye buzzing while I read it as it opens up the energy pillar for teaching. Okay. So Akashic Enlightenment is the Akashic Records and Book of Truth. So the Akashic Records are an ancient energetic record or database of every thought, emotion, feeling, word, and action ever to exist, is existing, or will exist. Imagine it as the consciousness cloud or like an energetic internet to which you naturally have a connection to and you just need a browser. This is where having an Akashic record access prayer like the one you are being taught here comes in, and why technicians like myself are given access prayers and easy access to them so we can teach others how to use them at this time for our own soul evolution, ascension, and self enlightenment. Doing your soul's growth work through accessing the Akashic records allows you to step out of those repeating patterns more associated with third dimensional awareness and become more conscious or aware by being aligned with who you are at your soul level, clear karma, understand soul contracts, the positives and negatives of situations, why they are happening, overall part of a more fifth dimensional awareness as humanity is transitioning to in these great times of change. In this awareness, you can prevent being in repeat over and over again in this lifetime and extending over into others till you get it and can finally just move on to getting it, what your soul is really trying to tell you you are here for. In this greater awareness and connection to higher self, your soul, and thus to source, you can begin to see what can be gained from certain situations instead of getting caught up in the ego's game of avoiding what is really going on and distracting one with other tasks, thoughts, and behaviors that can get to the point of causing disharmony in one's health and well being, and ultimately leading to many common illnesses or dis-ease as it takes you the long way around on your soul's path back to source, a process referred to as ascension or self enlightenment. So you can go the guided way or being dragged by the wagon the ego's way, right? So we want to get into that front seat with the soul listening to the guidance. So we are on the swifter, more aligned ascension path instead of going the long way around. So, this overall process coming back to this ascension or the self enlightenment, this is an original state for humans of which we have forgotten about and have been separated from for many years and many reasons, and at which time we are all waking up to again as we remember this once divine connection we all used to have. say it's still there. We're just not using it. We've cut it off. Our society doesn't integrate this into our everyday. Okay, so below we have a diagram of how Akashic Enlightenment works for those who are visual. Right, so we have source, all that is, and the Akasha is what connects to source. Okay, and then from there, we're getting like the trickle down effect, right? So then it comes into the book of truth. And we just use these ideas of books because us as humans, that's how we like to receive or take in knowledge. Maybe in the future, it won't be a book anymore, it'll just be a computer, right? But for now, this is the terminology that we use, right? So then the Akasha narrows down into the book of truth, and then it comes into the Akashic records, which you have your own little Akashic record, right? And that record then fetches the information from the book of truth, which is like your personal connection to the greater Akasha. And what does it have to enlighten you with? And then that incorporates into your Akashic record, your soul's path, your experience, your journey. And that process then comes into your being. And we're using more or less the 12th chakra, which is also called the higher intelligence gateway. You can see that there. Although Akashic Enlightenment will be opening this whole pillar of chakras, often called the transpersonal chakras, above the head. All right. And this then opens up all of the energy bodies that are connected to those higher chakras. And we get into going over that more in level 2. But for now, we are just returning to our connection to source, right? All of us are a part of source, and we're just opening up that connection to remember again who we really are. And our higher transpersonal chakras are what are being, you could say, conditioned or worked out so that they build up strength to hold frequency, to be opened to receiving knowledge again. So, this process was actually what a lot of the Mayan calendars and the temples were showing that humanity was going to go through this awakening process. Okay, so it's already written. We are just complying with what we are needing to do at this time in our evolution of humanity. So once we come back into this connection of source light, because we're all a piece of the source light, we allow this to come through us. And then it comes into our Earth Star chakra below the feet. And you could say this is the way that we are then enlightening Earth, right? We are changing the frequency. We're like these tuning rods, allowing this light to come in again and then go into the earth. So this is, your part of ascension and helping the earth come into a higher frequency field. All right. You are a conduit of pure, beautiful white light. So, aside from the Akashic records, Akashic Enlightenment, of course, opens the Book of Truth, which is what I was talking about before. So, we're going to go over a little more of what is the Book of Truth. Most people know the Akashic records, the Book of Life. It's in movies. It's it's referenced a lot of places. And so the Book of Truth is a bit of the new one. Okay. And so the Book of Truth is timeless and universal and is a big library of which your Akashic records are but one hallway of. It contains the laws of the universe, our singular universe and beyond, and God creation as they truly are free of human interpretation and scientific theories and laws that are untrue bias or forms of ego upon God's source's will or one's true will, which is the same as God's source's will once one aligns once again with their true will via the soul. Once one knows the laws that are governing the true universe and understand it, that is how you step out of your false law universe, binary self loop of being within itself and moving to connecting with all. The Book of Truth is the exit point out of the singular universe to the greater, larger, true universe at large. The Book of Truth downloads I've received inscribed in the Akashic Enlightenment book are some of the laws and lessons of how the universe functions. I've been told that the chapters and lessons of the Akashic of the chapters and lessons in the Book of Truth are best taken in when they are personally applied to your current situation via accessing your Akashic records through Akashic Enlightenment, rather than reading it as a text. It is a massive database like the Akashic records, so it is best to have an intention to apply it to for best results, which is what we'll be practicing here. You can imagine it like the internet. There's so much information on the internet, you can't just sit down and read the internet. You have to type in your intention and let it fetch and bring to you the information that you want and need, right? So Akashic Enlightenment is that tool, right? It's the browser, right? And then we're just going to go ahead and activate it with our question, right? So instead of ask Jeeves, we're gonna ask Source, we're gonna ask God through Akashic Enlightenment. All right, so ultimately, once we start doing this, right, once you start working in your Akashic Enlightenment regularly, aligning yourself with these higher energies, asking for guidance, aligning your chakras, and training your soul star chakra, or all the chakras above the head to receive, you will receive guidance and soul alignment. This takes you on your path of ascension, rising to your higher self, back to the original light being state of who you truly are, on your soul level, all the way back home to Source and God and all that is. The more you practice, the more your body, mind, spirit will be aligned and used to being used in this way to commune and align with higher energies and higher guidance through transmissions and channeling and aligning you to your soul and thus to God, Source, all that is. The more it is done, the easier it is to come back to and stay as your original divine human self, outside of a shadowed ego existence, thus changing how you exist, as the following diagram depicts. Right, so the majority of people incarnated on Earth are being led by the ego, okay? And the soul is there, but the ego is asleep. It's in the dark. It's controlling the show. And because it's in the dark, it's suppressing the soul, okay? But the soul is awake and conscious and connected to Source. And it's aligned to guidance and higher leadership. But the ego is over controlling it. And it really doesn't have the tools to be in charge. It just is on pure raw functioning. So it actually, the ego doesn't even like having that much responsibility because it actually doesn't know how to do it. Okay. It doesn't have the tools. The soul knows how to do it. Okay. So through working in Akashic Enlightenment, the soul is going to become the leader. Okay. It is the one that is guiding you through your day to day work and practice. Then the ego can more or less, at least a little bit, become awake because it's coming out of darkness because it's being led by the soul. Meaning the ego is a taskmaster. It loves to do things, right? And it's either going to do it from conditioning or it's going to do it from what the soul is saying. So in this case, we're just going to align with the soul. And the ego is going to go, okay, I need to do that. Okay, okay. And then the soul will go, oh, good little ego, kind of like a pet, you know, good job. Okay, go and do this. Great. Okay, thank you. Now you're going to be rewarded because now you're going to be happy on a level that you didn't even know existed. Right? And this is functioning in your divine will and your soul path. Okay, so the divine will can also be called the soul's purpose, right? It's your kind of origin point. Okay, and then the soul path is how you do that soul's work. And that changes over time depending on what your soul is meant to experience and how far up the ladder of ascension it's going. Okay, so that's why you'll see even people on the awakening path will change what they're doing. It may be in a certain field of interest, but it may change over time, right? So you can use, let's see, Eckhart Tolle as an example. Okay, at first he started off teaching small groups. He was doing one-on-one sessions. He was actually a Course in Miracles teacher a long time ago. And then he felt called to write his books. He moved to the States. He wrote his books. Then he started lecturing that material, right? And so it just started changing as he started awakening more and more and more. Okay, so it doesn't serve the soul to just stay working at that same pace as it's growing because it's not learning, right? Okay. All right. So we are on the mission to more or less release the soul from the ego's grip. It does not always go willingly, though. I will say that. Okay. So you may get some egoic backlash, which we'll talk about in a minute here. All right. So, yeah, there's a little story about how I got Akashic Enlightenment and the big wow that I had that you can read later. Okay. And here are the guidelines. Okay, and this is pretty important if you're first starting with this. All right, because you're learning to work with. It is a pretty powerful frequency energy tool that you're working with. So you want to be respectful of what it is bringing you and the consciousness frequency it's putting you in. Okay, so you definitely want to be conscious, awake, conscious, like not sleeping, and not driving or something that takes your fight or flight system, right? That is the ego's job to like remove you from being in front of the bus, okay, to keep you alive. And it will be slowed down when you're in your Akashic Enlightenment, okay, especially more at the beginning. You may feel spacey and kind of like, ooh, this is great. But that's not the state you want to be in when you're driving a car or other machinery or things that you need to have a faster reaction time. Okay. So at least for now, don't do that. Um, I think walking around is okay if you're not in a busy area, like walking in nature. Okay. Or doing yoga, something, meditative and sacred, because that's what we're focusing on, the purpose being. The only other time I have used it also is being like at a sacred site like Mount Shasta or a temple or a church. Also, if you go to a museum where they have ancient artifacts, I did this in the Egyptian Museum in Pennsylvania. I got a lot of downloads from the material items and the um, is it the mummies. Yeah, they had a couple of the mummies there, all wrapped up. That was intense energy, really intense. So yeah, you can get downloads. So that's also an okay place to be in there. And this is after you're more attuned to working with it, which I'd say you will be after doing level 1. You can do those things. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you only use this prayer to open your own Akashic Enlightenment, especially, you're at the beginning, okay? And this will give you the most powerful alignment when you are aligned with yourself, okay? And if others come to you and they're afraid to go in or whatever, just, recommend them to open their own Akashic Enlightenment. They can get the book and they can teach themselves how to do it. And the reason for this is you're learning to really see yourself as you truly are, and then to see others as they truly are without all they falsely believe about themselves. So you can always go into your own Akashic Enlightenment to be more fully present and aware with somebody, and they can ask you questions that way. That's the beginner's practice. And the reason is also that if you open somebody else's Akashic Enlightenment and you haven't done that work, all your stuff is going to flush up. You're going to become triggered. And I saw this when I had some Akashic record readers use this prayer. They weren't used to the frequency, right? You could say, maybe the frequency that they're working in, open this amount of space. Then, as soon as you open the space this big, there's all this other shadow work that becomes apparent because the more light, more frequency has been shed, right? And that's the other thing. Akashic Enlightenment is incredibly high frequency. Okay. I haven't found anything that's higher frequency or even equivalent to it. So that's why, we want to be careful. We want to take some time. It's some say it's not a beginner's practice. Okay. Most people that come to this have had some other training, or they're an old soul and they resonate deeply with it. But I'd say everybody that finds Akashic Enlightenment, it is for them. They're drawn to the frequency. Okay. But you have to practice and immerse yourself in it. Okay. So only open your own for now. Okay, and you definitely want to be sober. So, no alcohol or drugs within 24-hour use. Drugs meaning substances like allergy medications, things that can kind of numb you out. Okay, that can bring you down to like a second level density, right? Which is the density of plants. I mean, we love plants, but we're going up into fifth density and above. Okay, so those things will just weigh your frequency down and make it hard to go up. On the other side of that, you can use crystals to increase or enhance, accelerating going into the higher frequencies. And I've listed some of my favorites there, the higher frequency crystals. My favorite is moldavite. I find that to be a very good awakening crystal, one that everybody should have at some point. And the other one is the phenacite, which I wear all the time. I like that one as well. They're very high frequency and they work well with Akashic Enlightenment. And then if you get really advanced, or if you've already done some crystal Vogel work, you can use your Vogel wand with Akashic Enlightenment. When I'm in there, I just hold it like this, just to open the overall field around me, right? The point is up, the big fat end is at the bottom. I have a ruby lavender. This is not a traditional Vogel by any means. This is a special one. And they don't make them anymore. It's from Mount Shasta. It's an unconditional love, but you can use, like the 12, 24, 36 sided Vogel wands, whatever you're drawn to, okay, for your work, and it'll just enhance the field more. The crystals like to play with the frequencies, okay, but it's not required, okay, it's just something if you feel called to add it, you can. All right. And so now coming back to opening your own Akashic Enlightenment, right? You just want to use your full legal name when you open it. First, middle, last name. No nicknames. Okay, you want to stick with what is legally on your driver's license or passport. That's more or less your energetic imprint into the world, the cosmos, all of that. Okay. So that is your most powerful resonance connection, is your full legal name. And I will say, if you do open somebody else's without their consent, because some people think, oh, well, I'm not doing a reading, I'm just going to take a peek. You're breaking their free will. Okay. And we don't want to do that. You'll get a backlash, you'll get some karma tossed in your face. So don't tempt the universe and the fates that way. Yeah. So just open your own first, middle, and last. If you want to learn how to open others, then you will do all of the levels of Akashic Enlightenment. I do a mentor sessions at level 10. Okay. And that's when you learn how to open somebody else's and be really present with them to help them on their awakening path. That's a powerful training. Okay. So, yeah, full legal name. So once we go in, okay, you open your Akashic Enlightenment, you're feeling the vibes, okay. And now you're going to ask questions when you go in here. You can also meditate when you're in there. All right, that is another option. But at least for these training sessions, we are asking questions. All right, and traditionally, you're going to be asking questions on your own. Okay, once you're at home. Okay. And if you really don't want to ask questions on your own, you can at least just do a daily practice of going in there and settling in with the energy. I have what's called the daily meditation. I have a bunch of those recorded, different versions of them at different vortex points. That's on the website. I think there's some also in this class. I think I put them in the folder there for you just to practice with. I won't go over doing that today just because of time, but it's just, something that you can practice with other than doing questions to keep you in the energy and practicing. But traditionally, we will be doing questions. And when we say questions, we mean open ended questions. We don't want yes or no questions. The ego can control yes or no questions to get the answer and the outcome that it wants. All right. So open ended means that we're doing what, why, how, where, and when. Okay, that's how you construct your question. We go over that in a whole class in level 2 if you want to learn more about doing questions. And the when question, of course, is tricky because we're not in linear time when we're in that dimensional space. Okay, we are in quantum time. Everything is all at once, which means that when this happens, then this happens, right? The soul looks at things in terms of lessons. That could take you 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years, but it doesn't care about the linear amount of time, right? It just matters what has your soul ascended to. Okay? So most commonly, the when question will include, when this happened, then this happens. Okay? All right. Now, when we ask these questions, or even if you're doing meditation, it's always nice to just have some sort of documentation of this. So you want to record this or document this in some way. So in today's class, the questions have already been written and they'll be given to you, but you're going to write things down. Okay. When you're at home, you can use your phone or an audio recorder to record verbally if you'd rather do that. Of course, that's how I do my readings, right? If I do a reading, I open up someone's space and I just talk and record the audio that's just coming through instead of writing it down and then emailing it to them, right? So, yeah, you want to make sure that you document, okay? And when you document, we're not just looking for knowledge. Some people are like, oh, I didn't hear anything, nothing came in, I must be doing it wrong. But I felt this heavy sensation on my crown and then my heart, right? So that counts too. So sometimes you're just going to get a download. So you really want to be conscious of whatever is coming in. When you ask a question, what happens after that? Okay, whether it's a feeling, energy's coming in, sounds, sometimes you'll hear sounds. Okay, sometimes there's a words or dialogue streaming in that you just write down. Sometimes you'll see images, past lifetimes, or an ascended being coming to you. Sometimes there's different colors that come in, sometimes shapes, and there can be a sacred geometry sometimes as well as part of the shapes. And sometimes there's just an instant knowingness. You know. Okay, and every now and then there's also smells. I've had sage, flowers, um, baked goods, chocolate chip cookies as part of somebody's soul path. That's funny. But yeah, so it's going to use all of your senses. Okay, sometimes you'll also feel things physically. I had some people that are very clairsentient, they'll feel things, all the energy. Oh, I feel energy in my legs moving when I do that. Oh, I feel it here and there. So that can also happen. And you really just want to focus on documenting. That's the ego's job. Okay. So that's how the ego is going to excel. It's going to go, oh, I'm writing everything down and I'm documenting everything so well. Right. And the more that you do that, the more you go into receiving, you go deeper in just through the documenting. Okay. Because it's keeping the ego busy with a job. All right. And that keeps it from, oh, this isn't real. This isn't happening. What is this? Okay. But the other thing that you can do is if those questions are coming up, then you can, or that pushback, just ask for elaboration. Okay. If the ego is coming in with these things, then you can just make it into a question. And eventually it'll become quiet because there's no more questions, right? It can't keep resisting what is true. Eventually it just accepts it. Okay, so you may want to get a written journal. I have a journaling app on my phone that I like to use because it's searchable. Okay, there's a ton of them out there. I use Memento. It was one of the earlier ones. I think they may even charge for part of like a premium service now. But yeah, whatever works for you, having something to document everything in. But it's usually nice because then you also have the option to look back at things because you will forget sometimes more often than not what comes through because you're so in the moment and you're just documenting what's coming in that you don't remember because you're in the energy and you're going through that shift. And then when you go back and read it, like, what did they say? Wow, what was that? Oh my. Then you wait a couple weeks and then you look back, oh, that did happen. That's right. They were just talking about this. Okay. So you want to have that documentation so that you have a record of things to reflect on. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's everything for that. Yeah. And then, when you first come into Akashic Enlightenment, you just want to adjust to the energy, let it settle in. And when you're first practicing outside of this class, I'd say do 15-minute increments, unless today, when we ask the question for your daily practice, if you get something more specific, then you can follow up with doing that instead. Okay, but generally 15 minutes at a time is what works best. Okay. That helps you get used to holding the high frequency. Some people, it's so high, they fall asleep. They're sitting on the couch and it just puts them to sleep because it's such a deep meditative frequency. Okay, so eventually that will wear off. You'll get used to being in the frequency. All right. All right. Any questions about that so far? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, so the actual prayer itself, pretty simple. Okay, there's an opening prayer and a closing prayer. All right, and in the opening prayer, you can see these four bolded, underlined me, and my. Okay, so that's the part that you're going to insert your name in. Okay, and these instructions are over here on the left, just as a reminder. Okay, but what you do is you read the prayer out loud, just as it's written the first time. Then you do it 2 times silently, putting your first, middle, and last name in the four bolded areas. Okay. And then you are opening your own Akashic Enlightenment. All right. So a total of 3 times, 1 time out loud, and 2 times silently with your full legal name in the bolded areas. Okay. And then you go in and you do your questions, you do your meditation. And then when you're done, you just come back and do the closing prayer 1 time out loud with your full legal name in that one space where it says full legal name. All right. So pretty straightforward. And we'll go through this together. We'll read it together. But I'm just going to take us through some meditations before we go in. Okay. All right. So we'll have a chance to go and read that in a minute here. Okay, so these meditations are preparatory meditations, meaning they are just there to prepare you to go into your Akashic Enlightenment. They're not required at all. They don't um, open the Akashic space at all. They're just helping you to get more grounded and more centered before going in. Okay, so some people like to do these on their own, beginning of the day, end of the day. Some people like one more than the other. There's a total of 3 of them. Okay, so the running energy meditations, first one, I do this at the beginning of all my readings. It just helps clear out other energy, helps you be more grounded in your own energy. Okay, so I will guide us through these three, and then we'll open Akashic Enlightenment when I'm done reviewing them here. So you can have a recording of it and understand how it works. Okay, so the running energy meditation, yep, just kind of clears you out, grounds you. And the golden egg meditation, this keeps you protected or in your own energy and not taking in or holding on to others' energy. So you're literally going to put yourself inside of this golden egg. Okay. And both of these are taught at most energy medicine schools or psychic schools. They're not my meditations. I just learned them over time, just passing them on to you. Okay. And they're written here below if you'd like to read them. Most people memorize them or just listen to the audio version. Okay. And then this final one, the shamanic golden chakra meditation, this one is mine or one that my spirit teacher in my shamanic work gave me. Okay. And this one helps you clear your inner divine channel that connects you to source. Okay. It clears out all the chakras and just clears the channel preparing you to receive what's going to be brought in through your Akashic Enlightenment. All right. And that one can be pretty strong sometimes, depending on how gunked up things are. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. So, yeah, why don't we just go ahead? I'll guide us through those. And then yeah, I'll just leave this page open. Okay, so I'll guide us through the meditations. Then we'll come out. You'll be, oh my goodness. And then you'll read. We'll read the prayer out loud together. And then we'll do 2 times silently with full legal name. And I'll remind you when we come out. Okay. All right. Any questions before we go into the meditation and open Akashic? Okay, because once we open the Akashic, we'll go right into doing our questions, okay, which are right here. All right. And these are, our soul alignment questions. And they're more or less aligning you with this prayer and working with Akashic Enlightenment. Okay, soul alignment questions. This is a series of channeled in questions that bring you a certain alignment with your soul. Okay, they have been channeled in together. It's almost like a reading, a pre-prescribed reading that you're doing for yourself. Okay. All right. Okay, so you can go ahead and get comfortable. Let me get some fluids here.